What's good, y'all? This is DJ Ben Amin. I am one of the hosts of For All Nerds Show and the author of Jimi Hendrix Purple Haze, as well as a bunch of other things. And when I'm not doing all those things, I'm always checking out AllHipHop.
AllHipHop is in the building with my man, my Renaissance brother, my creative brother, my hip-hop brother, DJ Ben Hameen.
What's
good with you?
Chilling, man. How you doing, man? I can't complain. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, definitely glad to have you pull up to One More Studios to do this interview with us. So first of all, man, I want to congratulate you on your new book. Bam!
There it is.
Purple Haze. Jimi Hendrix, Purple Haze.
There we go.
It's a graphic novel. Hold on, let me put it back. With two covers, by the way. You see that. And it's written by yourself, created by yourself, and two others. Is this correct?
Yep.
Tell me the structure of this book.
All right. Well, it's Jimi Hendrix Purple Haze. It's a graphic novel. It's published by Titan Comics or Titan Publishing. And it's written by myself and Mello Brown, a brother of mine, one of my writing partners for a long time. We worked on American Gods together, and we've basically been friends and brothers for, I don't know, since Twitter started. I think that's when we first met. And then I can't say my man's, but an absolute legend, and we've grown to be friends, I would say, Tom Mandrake did the art. Tom Mandrake is a legendary artist. He goes back to the 80s and 90s. He's drawn for everyone. He's one of the all-time greats. And he illustrated his book along with colors by a cat named Justin Prokovich, who I also got a shout out because Justin killed it. So me and Mello wrote it, and they did the art, and it's now out everywhere. And it's a weird one. It's an intergalactic space opera featuring Jimi Hendrix as an adventurer who uses the power of music to battle against a fascist empire in space.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah, it is. It's a really hard elevator pitch. So there's a lot.
Right.
It's a lot to describe about what's going on in this book.
So my first question was, why Jimi Hendrix? Why a comic? Why and how? Like, what were you smoking, drinking, thinking?
Well, pretty much always that good green. You know, that's a standard. But no. Like I say, we've been working on this for a minute, and it started because Mello, my writing partner, he's been working with Titan Comics for a minute now. They had the Blade Runner license, and so he's been writing the Blade Runner comics for them for a minute.
Okay.
And so since he did that, that's been pretty successful. He's like overseeing the whole Blade Runner universe right now for them. And they were like, yo, we have this other property, Jimi Hendrix. We've been working with the Hendrix estate, and we would like you to go ahead and pitch on it. And the only thing that we have is that they don't want it to be a standard autobiographical story. They want it to be something far out there, something fantasy or sci-fi related.
Nice.
And that's pretty much all they had. And then we started pitching, and we, came up with our ideas, and we went from there.
Now the estate, I should say, has been, well, I don't know exactly the word, but difficult. Let's just say difficult.
Let's say, I wouldn't say difficult. I would say protective.
Protective.
Yes,
that's
very extremely protective.
Yeah. How difficult, how was it working with them on this project?
Well,
creatively.
We worked directly with Jimi Hendrix, who I finally got to meet in person for the first time at San Diego Comic-Con. We've been talking over Zoom and things of that nature since we started this, but the first time we ever met in person was when we both saw the book for the first time in person. So Janie is great. I will say that Janie is definitely very protective of her brother and his image and everything that comes along with that. And after having worked on the book, I fully understand why, because there is a lot of entitlement in the fandom of Jimi Hendrix, I have to say. And
right.
And I think that goes for pretty much any
How
fandom.
so?
It's like with any fandom. It's like we always want more, like I'm one of the biggest Tupac fans in the world. But I'm also, I think, because of my unique perspective, I guess, as a DJ and music head and all these other things, like, let's say I'm also a Prince fan. In fact, I was discussing this with a Jimmy fan recently because they were upset that the estate hasn't released a certain album or something. And I was like, fam, there has not been a Prince song that I've heard since he passed where I was like, man, I wish he put that out when he was alive.
Right.
I was just like, you know, that was cool.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
it's been pretty much my reaction to everything. You know, it has not been around the world of the day. You know, it ain't been no 1999. It ain't been all these, it ain't even Bad Dance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They've been cool. And so I would say that's one of the things. And then the other thing is, like, now that the book is out, I can even say this. One of the big things that she specifically did not want us to dwell on was drugs and women.
Right.
You know, even though there's a bit of that in ways in the book, they didn't want that to be the focus, and I fully understand that because I feel like people equate the drugs especially to his talent with the guitar.
Yeah.
And that's just not the case at all. So,
What was the research, or what did you do to prepare for this graphic novel?
mainly listened to a lot of Jimi Hendrix, talked to Janie a whole lot. We had very long, in-depth conversations about him, about everything that she remembered about him, everything that she'd gathered, even, you know, since his passing and all the years of running his estate and dealing with all this stuff. And then I read a couple of, I always hate the word autobiographies of his. And the one that I really enjoyed the most, and that's when I told Janie about it, is I don't know if it was licensed or not, because she kind of was like, I don't know about that one. But it was a book that had a lot of his letters and things of that nature in it.
Okay.
So it's like letters he'd written to people, notes he had, things of that nature. So it kind of gave me a little bit more into the insight of him.
Okay.
And then the other part of the research was more getting into the era of Jimmy that we were talking about, because even though it takes place in space, we were really talking about a very specific time period in his life, which is when he was forming the band of Gypsies, when he stopped touring with the Experience and then formed another band, the Band of Gypsies, and put out this one album, the Band of Gypsies, with Buddy Miles and Billy Cox. I hope I got them right. I usually flip the names backwards, but I think I got it right. And it's two brothers. So that's this album that he does with two black men. And it's a real formative album in the scope of music. Like, it starts, George Clinton calls it like the beginnings of funk. D'Angelo references it a lot. You know, it's one of those albums.
Right.
And so that was the first album that I got into Jimmy for, like, way back in the day when I first started listening to Jimmy. I was put onto that album first.
Right.
So that was always something I, you know, just in me kind of. And then Mello came to me with the same idea that he wanted to talk about that album. Yeah. So it just kind of, we just linked on that, and that's where our story is.
Okay.
You know? Yep.
Jimmy, Jimi Hendrix, the superhero, the action hero, whatever. Is that what we would call him? Action hero, superhero? What would we call him?
A musical hero?
Musical hero?
Musical hero. I think, I wouldn't say we're doing something new in this book, but there is something different in it in terms of it. Because while it is, someone compared it to the greatest episode of Star Trek. And
Which episode?
I don't know. They just said, like, hey, you know, no, like, it's
literally
its own great episode of
the
Star
Borg.
Trek. Yeah, like, you know what I mean? I got another idea for a comic about music and the Borg. That's a whole nother thing.
Okay.
But yeah, this, yeah, so it's a very lyrical adventure, you know, but it's, I thought of it as more of a Star Wars type of event. Story, but like I say, someone else would compare it to Star Trek, and I'll take that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give people, just for the younger people or the people that are clueless, because, you know, some of our folks don't even tap in with Jimmy. Just give us a paragraph or a statement of who Jimi Hendrix is or was.
All right, that might be more than a paragraph, but
yeah.
One of the big things in this book, and one of the main themes of the book, besides the whole fight against this fascist empire, is what I call, and it's an idea that I've had for a long time, is like the river of black music. And what I like to say is like genreless. You know, it's just one. We've been making one form of music since we arrived in this country, and then it's different names by people outside of the people usually creating it. Like, yeah, this jazz portrait on the wall, and Miles Davis once said, "Jazz is the name given by people who can't play what we do." You know, we don't call it jazz. We're just out here playing it. Y'all called it jazz,
Right.
And so Jimmy is one of these iconic what we call I don't know, a fork in the river. You know, he's one of these points where when he gets into the river, everything changes around him. Things change from before him, things change that come after him. It's just a seismic point in it. And Jimmy is what another thing that we pitched to Janie on this book, in fact, was we wanted to make sure that people understood, because it's often times he's not looked at as a black man, and he's not looked at as making black music. While he was the blackest of black, when you get into him, that's all he talked about. Like, I just posted this story today on my Instagram stories, and it was a news clip of him, and it's another part of our story when he missed Woodstock, and then he went and tried to do a show in Harlem 2 weeks later, because that's what he wanted to represent.
Right.
You know, so he was always about his blackness first. And so that's something that we wanted to really put out there, and we hope people take from this book, is that he was a black man, and in terms of music, he's as important as Michael Jackson, as Prince, as Beyonce, as Kendrick Lamar, as
Tupac,
Thelonious Monk, as Tupac, as any great name, James Brown, anyone you want to put up there, D'Angelo, like we said before, anyone you want to put up there, you got to put Jimmy in that same line.
Yeah, definitely. Do you aspire to do additional books?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt. Like, that's like when I compare it to Star Wars, I compare this book, this chapter, even though this is a complete story, I compare it to like Star Wars A New Hope.
Yeah.
Where, you know, Star Wars A New Hope was, even when you watch it for the first time in theaters, if you were that young to see it, or that, you know, old enough to see it then, you knew there was stuff that happened before this movie.
Right.
You know, even though they didn't explicitly say that back then, you know, but you knew that there was like, yo, there's stuff, Darth Vader didn't just show up right here. He's done some stuff before this, you know, and that's how this book is. There's things that have happened before this. You can see things happening after this, even though you get the whole complete story in this.
I think that I think we're kin brothers. Like, we're kindred spirits in a lot of ways. Many different facets to who we are.
Yeah.
Where do you put this in your career? You know, you've got a very impressive career. You know, you do a lot of different things. Where is this on your mountain of accomplishments? What would you say this is?
That's another one, you know, like, I'm always trying to deal with that, you know, like the idea that I've accomplished anything, you know, because I'm
See, we're the same.
Because I'm always like, I ain't done nothing,
Right.
you know, and it's like there's always more to be done. And at the same time, I'm always like, I don't want to overwork, you know, like that's my main thing in life. Like, I'm good, you know, like I don't need to do too much.
Right.
But, you know, people say, oh, you've done all these things. And it's like, a lot of these things just happened, and I wasn't intending them to be things. Like, one of my greatest accomplishments, I think, in life is being part of the Combat Jack Show.
Yeah.
Rest in peace to my brother Combat and to my brother Dallas Penn. But that just happened. You know, I just happened to know Combat, and I happened to hit Combat up, and then it blossomed into this thing, you know? So that was just one of them things. And this
Rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace, always. And this is one of those same kind of things. Like, me and Mello have been best friends for a long time, and when the opportunity came up to write this book, I was like, oh shit, this fucking Jimi Hendrix, you know, of course. And, you know, like I said, it's this dude, Tom Mandrake, drawing it. So this is something special. But for me, it was more like, oh, okay, I can talk about all these things. I want to talk about black music.
Yeah.
You know, I can say all these things. I can put everything that I've ever wanted to do into a comic book, regardless of who it's about, into a comic book. So as far as where it is on my scale, I don't know, man. That's for other people to say. I hope people enjoy it. I hope that I accomplish the things that I set out to write and get out there into the world, into it. And that's more for other people to let me know. So, you know.
What about an animated series?
God, yes. That's been But people have been talking about it. Even the companies talk about it. Janie's been talking about it. Like different versions. Cause I don't think a live action. I specifically wrote it where it would be very difficult. I think that's one of the joys of comics is to write things where it's very difficult to translate to live action because it would cost so much.
Yeah.
We wrote scenes that I just can't see being done in live action because I just know how much that CGI would cost you.
Yeah.
And I wrote them specifically like that because I knew I had no budget. So I'm like, what's the weirdest, biggest shit I can write?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we'd write. So, but animated, you could do this. So hell yeah, definitely. Yeah. So please buy it.
All right. So we're definitely going to buy it. So now I have a funny question.
All right.
Have you seen Andre 3000 as Jimi Hendrix?
No. I know there was some conflict.
Jimmy, right, by my side.
Yeah, okay. So did it come out? Is it?
I don't know if it came out.
It's one of those things, right?
I'm
but
not
it's
even
out
sure.
There, but
it's somewhere
like,
out there.
You can see it.
Yeah, I've seen pieces and bits, but I've never actually seen it.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so you've only seen pieces and bits.
Yeah.
So is it one of those things that like if I go looking for a digital truck that'll fall off?
It might. I might have to go look now.
Because I did not go look for it. I know that they were like
they blocked all the music, and then I was like, I don't want to see this movie now.
Yeah, I know.
Respectfully,
yeah, that's how I kind of felt.
Yeah.
And I think it might have been that Andre or whoever wrote it wanted to get into those subjects that they're not very much into portraying.
Yeah,
I fully understand that. So
right.
Yeah, no, I have not.
Okay, so here's the other question. Did you see the 2000 Wood Harris version?
Wait,
Wood Harris played Jimi Hendrix
wait,
in the year 2000.
wait, Wood Harris is The Wire, right?
Yes.
Wait, Wood Harris is
Well, he's not Marlo. He was
yeah, he's
yeah. Who? Come on, y'all. Ace from
Ace.
Paid in Full, but from The Wire, he was.
Why am I blanking?
Oh, come on, Google it.
Idris Elba is
I'm having a
Marlo Stansfield.
Marlo,
God damn.
Stringer.
Bell.
Why can't we think of Stringer's boss name right now? That's
partner.
Crazy. This is an egregious infraction. This is ridiculous.
It really is.
It is.
And
It's Avon Barksdale. Yeah, Avon.
Avon
Yeah.
Barksdale.
So yes, Wood Harris.
Wood Harris is
yeah.
Black Ass plays Jimi Hendrix. I mean,
I liked it. It got
Word?
it got universally dissed, but I liked it. I thought it was all right.
okay.
I'm not gonna lie.
In your opinion, why did it get universally dissed?
Well, it's Wood Harris. I mean, that's not the first thing you think of when it comes to Jimi Hendrix. I'm just saying. Yo.
This is like after The Wire. Right?
This is around The Wire time. Around the
He's like
same
full
time.
grown Wood Harris.
Yeah, fully blown Wood Harris. Yeah, so
Did he have an afro?
yeah, he had a loose afro. Yeah, permed afro.
Wild but true story. I played Jimi Hendrix.
What?
In when I was at Howard University.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh nah.
Yeah, there he is.
He look like he got a lot of makeup on or
Tell
something.
you, man. Yeah, you got to see that one. Now that one is out there. That's a fact.
Yeah, I played Jimi Hendrix in a student film.
How'd you do?
I didn't have to say a line.
Oh.
It was perfect. I was wild skinny and I had an afro.
Okay.
And I was like Jimmy in a dream sequence.
Okay.
So I just had to stand there with a guitar, and I've never seen this shit, so I don't know.
Oh, I gotta see that.
Yeah, I wish I could now, especially, but yeah, I don't know where that joint is. So
Okay.
one of the things.
Ultimately, what do you want people to take away from Jimi Hendrix Purple Haze?
Definitely, I want people to take away first and foremost that it's like a really fun adventure. It's a really dope story. It's like something you don't get to see a lot of is that black people in space.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just Jimi Hendrix. There's a whole cast and crew of characters, and all of them are like black and brownish pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all using magic and music, which is something else you don't get to see with black people to solve their problems. And so I want people to take that away first of all. And then I hope that people get a little bit more, I would say edutainment, like KRS-One would say about, you know, Jimmy and his whole life and everything, his impact on the world and on music. And then just the main other thing is the power of music in our everyday lives and how much it influences us, how much it affects us, and how we can use it, you know, in our life for better or for worse. So,
All right.
yeah.
Well, I'm gonna definitely support you and cop a copy, at least
you.
one, maybe two.
Maybe. We'll see.
Hard times, man. Shoot, these graphic novels get expensive.
It's only 30 and it's solid, you know.
All right.
You got a whole 120 pages of story plus backup stuff, all kind of script to art, all kind of, you got Tom Mandrake's pencils on the back of it.
Okay.
All kind of extra bonus features. It's, you know, it's a...
So is this last question? Is this last question on this? Is this the Jimi Hendrix universe? Will Eric Clapton be the villain, or will, you know what I mean? Will we see Elvis be like, you know, the evil forces of colonialism?
Speaking of Clapton, a character named Milky, what's his last name? I think it's Milky Erickson.
Oh,
Appears, no, he doesn't appear in this, but he did a mention.
okay,
So, you know, I'm not saying that is, but I'm not saying it isn't.
okay.
And there's a few other people in this book who are directly in it who I definitely cannot say they are.
Okay.
And I'm not saying they're not.
All right.
So yes, like I say, we built a whole thing where it's like, hopefully as soon as you start reading it, like I said, you'll be like, oh, these characters all know each other, and they've done things in the past. There's things that, you know, have happened between them. They have relationships and all that stuff. And I could see where things could go in the future. And there's a huge ending where it gives major hints even to what we could see in the future.
Okay. Yeah. Speaking of future, Afrofuturism is like a real thing now. It's like, it's always been a thing, really. But now it seems to be very, very prominent, much more prominent. The National African American Museum had a pretty dope exhibit.
That's incredible, man.
It's
Shout out to my
gone.
brother Leslie down there.
Yeah, just disappeared.
Just shut it down. Yeah, they extended it for a few extra months because, you know, we were part of the opening of it for All Nerds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we did a panel down there last year to like one of the things opening and celebrating the whole thing.
Dope. Yeah, I went right before it shut
my
down.
God.
I just stayed in there.
Bruh, that in the music section, that was my whole day. That was my first time going to the museum, but that's all I could do that day, and I was losing it in both of those places. Like Andre's MPC.
Yeah. I mean,
Andre's lyric book.
yeah, I took pictures of everything.
Everything.
Yeah, I videoed. I've been twice.
Yeah.
And the last time I went, I just said I'm going to video.
I video all the lyric
everything.
books.
Yeah.
So I can, and I still haven't done it, but so I can go and just read every line in there that he said. Yeah.
Talk about hip hop and Afrofuturism.
Wow.
You know, you mentioned Andre, but we have other reference points. Going back to really before Africa Bambaataa, but as it relates to hip hop.
I think, like, again, this goes back to the book again, but I just feel like hip hop is Afrofuturistic in itself. Like, the inception of hip hop is very Afrofuturistic. Like, the idea of taking a turntable that somebody takes a record and plays music on and turning it into a musical instrument in itself is, you know, Afrofuturistic. Like, that's just some whole other, like, I'm a DJ who's been DJing, 20 plus years now, and just the idea that every day fucks me up.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, yo, this is wild, bro.
Right.
Like, we are insanely
creativity. Yeah.
We're on some other
Yeah. Our ability to flip something that's nothing into something is crazy.
And
a
that's
cardboard
Afrofuturism.
box turns into
to a dance floor.
Right.
Yeah. And then on that dance floor, we create styles of things that are now in the Olympics. You know, so yeah, I just think the idea of everything that hip hop is Afrofuturistic. And then it's also like I keep going back to this book because it's one of, like I say, one of the main concepts is this river. Is like, I always talk about how hip hop, it starts in New York, but it really starts at the beginning of, you know, black people, because it's like the most base form of it. It's like, you know, talking and drumming, you know, so we've been doing that since we, you know, I don't know, stepped off the spaceships in Africa.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So it's like, that's all, that's hip hop, and that's like, it goes back to the basic of it. And it's also as complex as jazz, so it's
Absolutely.
insane, man. Like, what Public Enemy's production, you want to talk about Afrofuturism.
Bruh. I'm
DJ
not.
Premier.
I'm never, for the record, I will never say that there's a better album in the history of hip hop than It Takes a Nation of Millions to hold
I
us back.
see Shockley all the time, and every time I run into him in Brooklyn, I just stop him, and I'm like, and I'll tell anybody, if you ever want to cry or just think of music differently, go read the Wikipedia for Fight the Power, and how they break down the production of, like, just the intro alone is like, like mind-bending stuff, man. Yeah.
Facts. So let's talk about, since we're on another subject of your expertise, the topic of nerd culture, blurred culture, geek culture, whatever. What would you say? Where are we now? Like, I must admit, I've been in the culture as long as I've been in hip hop, maybe longer.
Yeah.
Right.
And you've watched it change too, because you've been at like the mainstream of it too. Like, you've been at like the NYCC's.
Fact.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so now I'm feeling not only overwhelmed because it's so much, but I'm also feeling like it's hit it's jumped the shark, and like everyone's in. And I called it about 10 years ago, and I interviewed Jean Grey, and it was a great interview. And she was there and I was there, and we were like happy more black people were coming in. And I was like, though, it's only a matter of time before this turns into Freaknik. And lo and behold, I think we're there.
Worse than Freaknik, and I'm not gonna...
And not to knock Freaknik, by the way, because it was pure at one point.
I never made it.
Okay, all right.
Thank God.
Like Freaknik was fun, though.
I mean, I went to Howard University in its time, so
so it was already lit.
Yeah, I've done enough.
Yeah.
You know.
I know. I do.
Yeah. But I not even Freaknik, and I'm not gonna call no people by name. I had a discussion last week that really made me see, okay, it's gone too far in one way that I didn't expect. Right? It's gone too far where it's Negroes who have missed the point, and have massive followings, and are like I'll just say it, like, closet, or not even closet, but very conservative, but claiming to be liberal. It's a very weird world we're in now, where it's like, where I saw a brother complaining about what's the word? Inclusion.
Yeah.
And
inclusion.
Like they're like, by you including all these people, you're pushing the writers that I grew up on out.
Right.
The whites.
Right.
And it's like, by including all these people, you're pushing all the good writers out.
Right.
And I'm like, well, I'm one of those people who's included, and I don't consider myself to be a bad writer. And, they were like complaining about things like, they were like, why did they make a Miss Marvel show before they made a Ghost Rider show? And I'm like, and they're like, Miss Marvel never sold anything. And they made me have to go and Google, and, Miss Marvel was a New York Times best-selling book and sold half a million copies in graphic novel form. So sold quite a bit, actually, and Ghost Rider ain't had a book since the 90s. So that's why,
he's trying to reclaim that old glory, that old thing back.
And that's where we're at now, even more than the Freaknik, is where you have not just the 8x11s, as I call them, trying to get that old thing back.
Yeah.
You got people of all shapes and sizes acting like that old thing back was good, and I'm like, fam, there ain't never been a time in American history that I want to go back to. I don't want to go back to yesterday.
Yeah. Right. I feel you.
Been a time.
I feel you. No, I feel you. I agree. You know what? Now that I think about it, I have to agree with you. The only thing I won't agree
Like you know what I mean? I love when Tupac was alive,
Right.
but at the same time,
That was the worst time
at the same
ever.
time, it was terrible.
That was the worst
The 90s,
time.
I loved it, but it was
It
terrible.
was so stressful. We had AIDS.
Oh
we
my
had
God.
rap beefs that were you couldn't go to LA.
Like,
You know what I'm
what?
saying? It was terrible.
It was whack,
We lost
bruh.
the two biggest figures
I
in the
couldn't
culture.
text nobody.
Right. Facts. Nah, I hear you. We glamorize the past a lot.
Pure
A lot.
glamorized.
And by the way, as it relates to live action superheroes, it was definitely the worst
Oh
period.
my God.
Spider-Man,
The Punisher
Hulk,
movies.
The Punisher movies, the unreleased Fantastic Four
I still never
joint.
seen that joint.
I've seen enough.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
Same.
It was terrible.
I seen enough.
It was terrible.
That Captain America joint, I seen that when he's like riding around on a bike.
Motorcycle, yeah.
Oh, it's terrible.
It was tough.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. No, bro, I don't ever want to go back. And so for somebody, that's what they said, can't we go back to the time when we just argued over Superman versus the Hulk? No, Negro, no. No, I don't ever want to go back to that.
Muhammad Ali versus Superman.
Like, bro, I was 2, you know, like, I don't want to go back to any of that. I'm good, you know.
I feel you.
Yeah, no.
And also, I think there's enough out there. It's like hip hop. If you want it, it's there.
And that's the other thing, same, like when people are like, oh my God, shut up. You're not looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, whenever you start talking about the music, you're not looking.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
You're not looking. Because if you want to find, you know, hip hop that sounds like it's from 1988, made in 2024, you can find it right now.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. You know, you can find that specific you were looking for.
Yeah.
If you're looking for it.
Yeah. All right. Do you have any other things about what you're working on? What's going on in the nerd culture? Like, is there anything that you're watching that we need to watch right now?
Ooh,
I know that was a lot, so I'll start with the last question. What are you watching now that maybe you would recommend?
all right, there's I'm waiting for Andor to come back because I just thought Andor was one of the greatest television series of like the last, I don't know what I've ever seen. I don't just mean Star Wars. I don't mean geek. I just thought Andor was fantastic.
Okay.
Power comes back this week. I know, look, it's my guilty pleasure. I love that joint. I love everything about Power. Right. And I don't like people who dog things like Power, like, wait, no, that is highly entertaining, and highly entertaining writing is as difficult as, thought-provoking writing, whatever. Okay. So, but as far as like the greatest that I've seen recently, 2 joints, both on Netflix, both animes. The first Slam Dunk, that is this anime about it's about a basketball game, and it's one of the illest sports movies I've ever seen because the whole movie takes place in this one game. Like, I started watching, I'm like, okay, they're gonna lose this game, and then they're gonna have other things, and then eventually they're gonna come back, and da-da-da. No, this whole game takes place, the whole movie takes place in this game, and you learn about every character on both sides of the team, coaches, everyone, backstories, future, everything, while this game is going on. Wow, okay. It's crazy storytelling and just a fire sports movie. And then that's the first Slam Dunk, and then Blue Giant, which is this other anime about these 3 kids forming a jazz band. And they're 3 Japanese kids forming a jazz band in modern day. And it's one of the most, like, respectful movies to black culture, to jazz, to our music that I've ever seen. And it's the most incredible thing that I've ever seen as far as, like, showing what it means to be dedicated to music. Okay. Blue Giant, me up. It's one of them films I see, everyone can see. As soon as I finished, I called him Mello and was like, yo, did we come close to that on Hendrix? Okay. That's how I felt about Blue Giant. It's just, if you love music, you need to see it in the story. Okay. Yeah, it's so good.
Who's your favorite superhero?
Galactus. I don't know if you can call him a superhero.
Hero.
Yeah, okay. I've heard to talk about superheroes.
He's a villain.
No, I know he's not. He's a force of nature. Get it straight. But if we're talking just straight superheroes, might be Rogue.
Rogue?
Yeah, okay. that's like my original go-to, Really? And then the other one is Cypher of the New Mutants. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I love that dude. Okay. Yeah. That's interesting. All right. Yeah. I didn't expect Rogue,
I'm mad basic, the Hulk.
I know you always say that, and but see, I always get mad at you because you got to read the comics, bro.
I haven't read the comics in a long time. Now, what? Not World War Hulk though. I've read that.
Okay,
Which
Immortal Hulk.
Immortal Hulk.
You gotta read Immortal Hulk.
I bought it.
Yeah,
and I didn't
I
read
told you about it before. You gotta get on it.
Well, this is when you start talking about texting. Yeah, texting is good, but it also destroys your ability to do things like read.
But come on, man, you got. So you got this, and then you can read Hulk right after that.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Favorite.
Hulk is one of my favorites too, though.
Yeah.
He goes back like. Shout out to Peter David, who is the original Hulk writer. Man, the man went through a stroke recently. He doing all right, but it's up to me because everything we know about Hulk from the movies is because of Peter David, and he don't get no dough, and it sucks.
Yeah.
So shout out to Peter David at the very least, man. Respect.
All right. So favorite villain, is that Galactus or is it someone else?
I don't call him a villain, so yeah, no, Dr. Doom.
Dr. Doom.
Hell yeah.
Thoughts on Robert Downey Jr.?
I'm going back and forth, man. It's hard, you know. It's like because it just depends on what the writing is. That's what it really boils down to. If they throw certain ways with it, I could be like this. You know, I'll be in the theater screaming. You know, like because if it just depends on how they go with it and how he plays it. Yeah, because he can do it. I just watched Tropic Thunder, and that man can do anything. Yeah, so
of course he can play a black man.
I mean, he did it, you know, and go to Australia and get back to Robert Downey. He's a monster. So yeah, it just depends. But
all right, so
at the same time, it could be cheap.
All right, quick question: Should and can Jonathan Majors come back? Should and can.
Yes. If Robert Downey Jr. can come back, then hell yes. Yeah. If all these other crackers can come back from all the shit they do. Like,
that's a fact. That's a fact.
Let that man live.
Is Marvel doing too much with the multiverse?
Yes. he's a right across the plate.
Right. This is a fact. This is a fact. Yes or no questions, though.
They dissing themselves in Deadpool, and it still wasn't good.
Like, I like Deadpool, though. Man, I loved it. I've seen it 3 times in theaters.
Wow. I was like, I'll never watch this again. Like, I was entertained.
Really?
But it was like an episode of Power where I'm like, I ain't watching an episode of Power again. You know what I mean? It was like, it was good for what it was, but...
Is DC going to make it back to glory?
Yes. James Gunn, I think, understands those characters, and I think he'll hire the people who understand them, and he's going to ignore the small, toxic fan base that, you know, loves to stream online all day. But yeah. He's talking about All-Star Superman for the basis of Superman. And for those out there, if you've never read All-Star Superman, it's 12 issues. It's like one graphic novel like this. And it will... Well, All-Star Superman is like, it's just unbelievable. You know, in terms of like getting it and making... It's like how... All they got to do, honestly, is do what Marvel did with Captain America. Okay. Because he's a Boy Scout type character, and they made him cool. Yeah. You know, and so it's not that difficult. Okay. You know? Yeah.
Tell us about For All Nerds. I know what it. Obviously, I know about it.
You've been on the show.
Yeah. Talk to us about it and what made you start it.
All right. Well, For All Nerds was actually what made me start it. Well, it's a podcast dedicated to geek culture from the perspective of people of color, and we've been doing it going on 11 years now. We were one of the originals in this space, and to this day, I feel like we're often imitated but never duplicated. And we were started by myself. I actually was the founder of it, but it was my brother, once again, Combat Jack, rest in peace, who, when we were doing the Combat Jack show, was like, yo, there's a space for hip-hop and comics that people are not talking about these connections nearly enough. And like I said, this is 12 years ago at this point, so nobody was. And like that's why I was talking about like New York Comic Con. Like I know when we started going 10 years ago, it was nothing but white people in there pretty much, and us, you know, and I'd see you, and then I'd see, you know, and now you go in there and that joint lit, you know, New York Comic Con, I got damn free nigga man, you know, joint is popping.
That's a fact.
Everybody up in there now, and I love to see it, but that's what I'm saying. When we started For All Nerds, it wasn't like that. So we started For All Nerds, and we just started reaching out to everybody, you know, people like you, anyone. And for these last 10, 11 years, we've been doing this, talking about geek culture from the perspective of people of color, breaking it down, talking to different people. We've interviewed pretty much everybody on the planet, all kind of different luminaries of Great Star Show. And it's hosted by me and my partner, Tatiana King. We're both Howard University graduates. So we bring a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom, but also a lot of jokes, a lot of humor. I just pride ourselves on being one of the funniest and wittiest shows out there, as well as one of the most knowledgeable ones. So
Shout out to y'all. I just started a podcast called Certified Squad.
nice. I got to come through.
Yeah, definitely with Head Crack, he's a host, and Queen Yanazaha. And the first thing I said when we started, I said, we cannot bite for all nerds. I said, no matter what we do, we have to be different.
Wow, because a lot of people have.
Yeah. Yeah. But I respect y'all so much.
Oh, that's dope,
I would never purposely attempt to duplicate.
So what's Certified Squad?
It's similar, but we're just we get on there and we talk. That's about it.
Okay.
Right now, we're shaping and molding it as we go along.
Oh, I definitely love the company there.
Yeah, great. But yeah, I definitely commend you guys. People don't understand the consistency and the difficulty of maintaining something for that long and doing it when it's a labor of love or a passion project or there's no one before you and really plowing through.
It's so funny to me because, like, I've seen it go from absolutely no money and nobody even thinking about money. Like in the days of me and Combat doing this, it wasn't even thought about. We were just doing it. Mm-hmm. And then it became, the days of Joe Rogan and all these people getting these massive checks and everybody named mama during the pandemic doing a podcast. And then it became like, oh, the industry's dead again. And we're still going.
Yeah.
And it's just like we still make our money in our ways and we still do it mainly as a labor of love. There's money, but we're, generating money in different ways and that we do it mainly because we love it. And I see people who don't love it, come and go. But it's like with everything, like I say, I just fall into things in my life and it's always things that I love. Like I don't do things unless I love them. Yeah. I love DJing, so I'll do that anywhere, anytime. Yeah. I love podcasting with Tatiana, so I'll do that anywhere, anytime. Honestly, I don't love writing like that. So.
Writing is grueling.
Yeah, it's grueling. But
crazy.
I'll do that when the time comes. I can knock it out. I will grind it out because I do love the end result of it.
Okay. Ben Hameen, DJ Ben Hameen, I appreciate your time.
Thank you, man.
Pulling up here at AllHipHop, man. Anytime, we definitely gonna have you back, man.
Oh,
definitely.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here.
All right.
All right.